Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new ARC reading vlog. It's been a while since I've done one of these because I mostly am down to really old ARCs that are well past the actual release date, but I did get an ARC of Victorian Psycho by Virginia Feito, which I'm trying desperately to read before the release date, which is February 4th, and it's currently February 1st. So first of all, happy February. We've made it to the second month of the year somehow already. But yeah, I'm trying to read this quickly before it comes out on the Tuesday of this upcoming week. So that's what we're going to be doing. It's currently February 1st, as I said, and I am a little ways in. I have started it, so I can give you my kind of initial thoughts. I'm 15% in. It says I've got about 3 hours left, so not bad at all. I think it's a pretty short book anyway. It's a little over 200 pages, and my initial thoughts are that the ARC is formatted very poorly, but that the book itself, like the actual writing and the story, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really curious to see where this is going to go. In this one, we're following Winifred Naughty, who is a governess. She's just been hired to be a governess, and she's going to her new posting, and it's pretty clear very early on that she has some sort of like dark past that's kind of following her wherever she goes, and as she is like incorporating with this family, she's supposed to be uncovering like the secrets, or like supposedly she's uncovering the family secrets and learning more about them, and then things start to go awry partway through her time with this family. So I'm really intrigued to see where all of this is going to go, because I am really enjoying Winifred as a character. She's really creepy in a way that I find really interesting, where it's clear that she's kind of embraced that side of herself. She's embraced her own oddness and her own darkness, but it also is clear that that's maybe come from something in her past. There's this figure we get introduced to fairly early on, somebody in her past who's kind of this looming figure over the story. He's kind of outside of the events that are happening, but we're learning a little bit more about him here and there and his role in her life and kind of how he's a part of who she's become now. So I'm really curious to see where that's gonna go. And then I'm also enjoying just kind of the dynamics between some of the different characters. The couple that she's working for, Mr. and Mrs. Pounds, have this very like bickering kind of relationship where the wife is very negative and just has very critical, is I think a good word for her, and the husband is creepy. He clearly likes to make people uncomfortable, but he also has this kind of like light personality where he's very like, not quite bubbly, that's not quite the right word, but like he says a lot of things that I don't think really are meant to matter. He has like a lot of snark, and he says things like, at one point he asks Winifred, "Oh, I trust your travels were good," and she says no, and he's like, "Great," and moves on. And it's just kind of this like silliness to the way he responds to things, where it's clear that he's heard and understood what you're saying, but he's just kind of like dismissive of the kind of negativity in what other people are saying, which is interesting in combination with a wife who is super negative. And then I've also just gone to the bit where we actually meet the children, and they have their own kind of unique personalities. So really enjoying it so far. I'm having a good time. Like I said, I've got about 3 hours left. I'm 15% in, and I'm hopeful that I can get through this weekend, which would give me a day to edit this ahead of the release date. So at least then my review could come out on the release date of this ARC vlog. So yeah, that's kind of our goal. That's where we're at. And I'm going to try and read some more of this, and I probably will check in around a 50% mark, but we'll see if I check in then, or if I don't have any thoughts, I'll just check in when I'm finished with the book, I guess. A quick late night check-in before I go to bed. I did not manage to get to 50%, but I have made it to 1/3, and I'm really enjoying the experience of this. This is a very weird book, and I think it's doing this really interesting thing where everybody in the book is slightly sinister and off, so very strange things are happening, but they're being treated as being like very mundane, and I'm finding that really unsettling and engaging, and like I really need to know where this is going, because I'm so interested to see how this like clash of personalities is going to play out. And it really is just genuinely so unsettling seeing like very bizarre things happening, or people saying really dark, creepy things, and then having people treat that as if it's completely normal. And yeah, it's interesting to me that we're having that kind of setup where like our protagonist is weird and creepy. It's still like, I think, enjoyable as a character to read from, but she's definitely like weird and creepy, and we're kind of slowly learning more about her, but seeing her interact with other people who are also weird and creepy is really interesting. So I'm really enjoying that. I think there's some really good snarky dialogue in here, because there's quite a few times when I think the characters don't quite talk like a person would, but it's in an intentional way where they're doing it to like create emphasis, or they're doing it kind of sarcastically. And I think that that's working pretty well, and I really like the descriptions in here too. One of the ones I like a lot at the very beginning of the book is somebody's skirt is described as like rustling through the grasses with a scythe-like grace, which I thought was fun. So yeah, there's a lot of good images, enjoying the writing. Formatting is pretty messy, but it's an arc, so like what can you do, you know? Well, it's Monday and I did not finish the book over the weekend as I had planned, which, you know, as most of my plans do, went awry. That said, I am right about the halfway point, just shy of it, and I feel like I'm flying through this. Like, even though I haven't finished it in the time frame I set myself, when I have been reading, I feel like I'm just flying through it. It's such a quick read, and it's really interesting. I want to say fun, but I don't know if fun's quite the right word given some of the subject matter in it. There's some really creepy things that happen. We have little bits and pieces of Winifred's childhood, and kind of the sense that she's maybe always been a little bit weird and creepy, and I'm just not sure where this story is going. It kind of tells you from the start that everyone in this house will be dead by Christmas, but it doesn't go any further than that, and I really don't have a sense of like where the story is going in terms of like what is Winifred up to exactly, and how are the other characters going to react. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm really excited to see how it's going to play out, and I'm looking forward to finishing it up this evening. I just got to part 2. The thing that happens right before part 2 had my jaw on the floor in a like, what the fuck am I reading, parentheses positive, non-derogatory kind of way. Like, excuse me? What is happening in this book? I'm having a great time, but like also what the fuck? Well, I have, let me get back to there we go. Get back to the cover. I have finished, there it goes, Victorian Psycho. Not much of a cover, is it? You can kind of see it there. So I finished this, and I just have to say that my overall feeling is, what the fuck, positive. This is a really strange book, and I struggled with trying to figure out while I was reading it, like how to describe it, because I was also kind of telling a friend about it while I was reading it. And I feel like this book is basically like, what if you took a novel of manners, like a kind of typical Jane Austen-y kind of story. You condensed it down a little bit, and you took all of the character archetypes and pushed them to their natural extremes, and then you just dropped a chaos gremlin in the middle of that. You added someone in who is just a force of chaotic malevolence and let them run rampant, and that's kind of what you get here. The last half of this book just goes absolutely wild. I think I checked in last and said like the thing that happens right before the halfway point is really shocking, and it just continues on that path from there. That's where things really start to ramp up at this point, and then it just goes completely all out bonkers by the end. There were a couple of twists in the last half that I also really liked. One has to do with Winifred's background, and one has to do with how the actual ending plays out. And I found that this had a really interesting tone as well, because there was a lot of these like dreamlike moments where you frequently, especially in the last half, couldn't necessarily tell if something was happening or if it was imagined, because Winifred seems to be having like very vivid either hallucinations or just like vivid daydreams. It's kind of unclear what's going on there. And so there's these moments where you're like, is this really happening or is this not happening? And it kind of alternates throughout. And it creates this like really weird dream-like vague feeling where weird things are happening and people aren't really reacting to them the way you'd expect. And I feel like it really heightens the horror for some of what's happening. It makes those things extra shocking because you as the reader are the one person in the situation going like, hey, wait, that's really sinister. What the hell is happening? So I really enjoyed that. I think it's just a really interesting book. I really love the writing in it. There's some really wonderful imagery in here. I say wonderful, and also I have to put the asterisk on that, very gory. There is a lot of gore throughout this book, especially in the last half, and I think it's not for the weak of stomach. This one definitely made me kind of gag a couple of times. So yeah, it was really interesting. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars overall. I feel like I've missed something. I think there's a message in here somewhere, some sort of commentary, but I'm not really entirely clear on what it is. I think I'd like to get a copy of this book at some point and reread it, like get a physical copy after the book comes out and reread it so that I can spend some time annotating and kind of sitting with it and thinking about it, because I think that there's something there. I'm just not entirely clear on what it's trying to convey, but I thought it was really interesting the way that Winifred kind of comes in and like, I don't know, not quite, she doesn't alter the like normalcy of this family, but I think in a way like exposes the dark undercurrents under that normalcy, because it's a like wealthy privileged family in the Victorian era, and she kind of exposes their self-interest and the darker side of their personalities in a way that I find really interesting. It's like it takes a monster to recognize a monster, I guess, is kind of the feeling of it. And I just really enjoyed that. I think it's really interesting as a book. I think it's an interesting project. Like I said, I feel like I've just kind of missed something somewhere in there that would tell me what this was all kind of about and what it's aiming for. But I feel like it's more a matter of my needing to kind of revisit it and reread it and think about it a little bit more. But yeah, I'm really glad I picked this one up. I picked it up entirely because I saw Stephen Graham Jones say it was fantastic, and he's absolutely correct. It's a really interesting book, and I'm really glad that I've read it. And I have technically successfully read it prior to the book being released, because today is the 3rd. It comes out tomorrow on the 4th, and I'm really excited about that. Unfortunately, I can't get a copy right now because I am, you know, moving. I don't need to have yet another thing to pack, but I'm gonna add it to my list of books I'd like to pick up a copy of in future once I'm settled, because I really would like to revisit it at some point. It's really just a strange book and so different from anything else I've read. You will be seeing this after the release date. I'm probably not going to get this edited in time for tomorrow, but I should have it up for Saturday, so you should be seeing this shortly after the book has come out. And I would highly recommend, if you like horror, if you don't mind gory stuff, if it sounds at all interesting to you, I definitely recommend checking it out, because I had a really good time with this one. So that's pretty much all I have for you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. Currently posting on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.